Maya Chen's apartment smelled like instant ramen and antiseptic hand soap, a combination she'd stopped noticing 3 years ago. She kicked off her compression socks and let them land wherever gravity decided, then collapsed onto her couch, a salvaged piece from a hospital waiting room renovation that nobody else wanted. The cushions had absorbed 1,000 anxious conversations, and now they absorbed her exhaustion. Her neural implant buzzed against her temple, the sensation like a mosquito trapped under her skin. She blinked twice to accept the notification. Her mother's face materialized in her peripheral vision, not quite real but real enough to make Maya's jaw tighten. Family alert. The AI assistant announced in that carefully neutral tone corporations spent millions perfecting. Chen family gathering. Saturday, 1900 hours. Grand Meridian Hotel, Tower District. Dress code, formal. Victoria Chen +1. Brandon Chen +1. Please confirm attendance. Maya didn't confirm. She closed her eyes and let the holographic invitation dissolve into pixels. Her phone, the old-fashioned kind with an actual screen, vibrated on the coffee table. The family chat. She already knew what it would say before she looked. Victoria, can't wait for everyone to meet James. Chief of Cardiology at St. Michael's. Finally found someone who matches my energy. A winking emoji followed. Then a photo, Victoria in surgical-grade smart silk, the kind that adjusted its shimmer based on ambient lighting, leaning against a man who looked like he'd been designed by a committee. Symmetrical features, confident smile, the posture of someone who'd never doubted his place in the world. Brandon, Tiffany and I have big news Saturday. Hint, we're expanding. Baby emoji, house emoji, champagne emoji, her mother, Maya. I uploaded 3 dress options to your cloud. Please pick one and I'll have it delivered. Victoria's boyfriend is very well connected. First impressions matter, sweetie. Maya set the phone face down and stared at her ceiling. A water stain had formed near the light fixture. Brown and spreading like a bruise. She should report it to building maintenance, but maintenance for sublevel apartments in the medical district came sometime between never and eventually. Her actual closet contained exactly one formal dress, bought 5 years ago for a hospital fundraiser where they'd served champagne that cost more than her monthly rent. The dress still fit, probably, if she didn't breathe too deeply. Victoria would notice she was wearing it again. Victoria noticed everything. Maya's neural implant buzzed again. Another message, this one private. Victoria, you're not bringing anyone? Still? I could introduce you to James's resident. He's single, age appropriate. Probably your type. Well-meaning but unsuccessful. Maya's fingers hovered over the haptic keyboard projected onto her forearm, then she dismissed it. Some things weren't worth the energy to respond to. The hospital had been brutal that week. 72 hours across 3 shifts, and Maya had watched 4 people die. That number should have bothered her more, but in hospice care, death wasn't the failure, it was the conclusion. What mattered was everything that happened before it. She thought about Harold Williams, 78, former jazz musician, lungs destroyed by decades of cigarettes and nightclub smoke. His son Michael hadn't visited in 6 years. Not since their fight about Michael abandoning music for corporate law. Harold's sister, Senator Patricia Williams, whose face appeared on news feeds arguing about healthcare reform, had visited twice. Both times, she'd watched Maya work with something like wonder. You make it look easy, the senator had said. It's not easy, Maya had replied. It's just necessary. Harold and Michael were talking now, or at least texting. Maya had facilitated that, carefully, pushing them toward reconciliation like a sculptor working with brittle clay. Harold had maybe 2 weeks left. Maybe less. Then there was Hiroshi Nakamura, 75, ALS taking him apart one muscle group at a time. His family owned half the restaurants in the city, the real ones, where people still cooked actual food. Not the synth protein dispensaries. Hiroshi couldn't speak anymore, couldn't move, but Maya had noticed him staring at the window. Not at the view, at the sky. The way clouds moved. The color of sunset through smog. She'd brought him watercolors and a brush modified for his hand. His daughter Yuki had cried when her father painted his first cloud, wobbly and childish and full of more life than anything else in that sterile room. Maya's phone buzzed again. Her mother, again. Did you pick a dress? The family photographer will be there. These images matter for our social presence, their social presence. As if the Chen family brand needed any help. Victoria's skincare line, Vitality by Victoria, had 200,000 followers on every platform that mattered. Brandon's crypto portfolio had made him 10 million by age 34. Her parents weren't mega wealthy, not by Tower District standards, but Robert Chen's real estate developments dotted the city skyline, solid and profitable and deeply boring, and Maya cleaned bedpans and held dying people's hands for $60,000 a year. She pulled up her banking app and stared at the number. $63,412. That was annual salary after tax, insurance, and student loan payments. She'd spent 9 years paying down debt from a nursing degree she'd only needed because she'd abandoned a business degree her parents had already paid for. The apartment cost $1,800 a month. Another $500 for transportation. Her decade-old Honda ran on actual gasoline, which meant premium prices and dirty looks at charging stations. Food, utilities, the mandatory health monitoring subscription everyone needed to prove insurability. By the time she tallied everything necessary for existence, she had maybe $300 monthly for savings, emergencies, or pretending she had a life outside the hospital. Victoria's dress probably cost $8,000. The one in the photo, the smart silk that responded to environment and mood, tailored by AI to her exact measurements and updated in real time based on her body's fluctuations. That was a year of Maya's discretionary income. Wrapped around Victoria's body for one night, Maya opened her closet. The black cocktail dress hung there, material that didn't shimmer or shift, just fabric that was fabric. She pulled it out and held it up to the dim light. It looked like what it was, old, cheap, maintained but not special. It would have to do. The week crawled forward with the particular cruelty of time that knows you're dreading something. Maya worked 3 more shifts. Senator Williams visited Harold again and pulled Maya aside afterward. I want to thank you, the senator said. Her security detail waited in the hallway, uncomfortable with the proximity to death. You've done something I couldn't do. You brought my brother back to his son. I just listened, Maya said. That's not just anything. Senator Williams handed her a card, old-fashioned paper with raised lettering. When this is over, I'd like to talk to you about something. A project I'm working on. Healthcare reform, but from the ground level. People like you should be consulted. Maya took the card, nodded, and tucked it into her scrubs pocket where it would probably dissolve in the next laundry cycle. The Nakamura family visited in a group that evening. Yuki, her brother Takashi, their mother Keiko, and various aunts and uncles Maya couldn't keep straight. They brought food, real food, from their flagship restaurant. Tempura that crackled when you bit into it. Rice that tasted like something other than prison cafeteria bulk orders. You gave my husband art, Keiko said through tears. She spoke limited English, and Yuki translated the rest. He always wanted to paint. Life was busy. Restaurant, children, surviving. You gave him permission to create. Hiroshi's paintings covered the hospice room walls now. Clouds, mostly. Sky. One attempt at a bird that looked more like an ambitious potato, but his eyes had lit up when he finished it. He's happy, Maya said, which was true, and we're doing everything we can, which was also true but insufficient. Hiroshi had maybe a month. Maybe 6 weeks if they were lucky, though lucky felt like the wrong word for slowly suffocating as your respiratory muscles forgot how to function. Friday arrived with the weight of inevitability. Maya stopped by the hospital to drop off supplies, her own supplies, purchased with her own money, because the hospice budget didn't cover lavender tea or decent watercolor paper or the specific kind of hand lotion that didn't sting against fragile skin. She was in the hallway, carrying too many bags, when someone collided with her. Coffee exploded across both of them, hot and shocking and completely ruining her scrubs. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," the voice stopped. "Maya? Maya-chan?" She looked up and forgot how to breathe. James Whitmore stood there, coffee dripping from his shirt, staring at her like he'd seen a ghost. 7 years ago, James had been a resident, one of the doctors who actually treated hospice nurses like colleagues instead of service workers. He'd been kind and funny and completely unavailable, dating someone serious, and then he'd vanished to Boston for a fellowship. He looked different now. Older, obviously, but something else. More settled. More expensive. The kind of expensive that came from success rather than debt. "James?" Her brain caught up to her mouth. "I thought you were in Boston, 6 months back." He grabbed paper towels from a nearby dispenser, handed her half, started dabbing uselessly at his shirt. "Chief of cardiology at St. Michael's now. Listen, I'm actually running late, meeting my girlfriend's family this weekend, some big birthday thing, but we should catch up." "Really?" He rushed off before Maya could respond, leaving her standing in a hallway that smelled like spilled coffee and missed opportunities. Girlfriend. Family gathering. This weekend, the universe had a sense of humor, apparently. A cruel one. Saturday arrived draped in dread. Maya put on the 5-year-old dress and stared at herself in the bathroom mirror. The dress fit, barely, pulling tight across her hips in a way it hadn't before. Stress eating had consequences. Her hair refused to cooperate with the molecular styling gel everyone in Tower District used, so she pinned it back with actual bobby pins, the kind her grandmother had used decades ago. Her neural implant offered makeup tutorials. She declined. Foundation that adjusted to skin tone in real time cost $200 a bottle. She had drugstore powder and mascara that had probably expired. The car ride to Tower District took 40 minutes through traffic that her navigation AI kept trying to optimize around. The Grand Meridian Hotel rose above the skyline like an accusation, all glass and steel and architectural ambition. The valet line was full of electric luxury vehicles that cost more than her apartment. Sleek and silent and judging her Honda with its combustion engine and rust spots, she pulled up to the valet stand. The attendant, young, probably working 3 jobs to afford sub-level rent, looked at her car with carefully maintained neutrality. "Thanks," Maya said, and tipped him $5, which was all she could spare and still pay next week's groceries. Inside, the hotel lobby was a cathedral to excess. Holographic chandeliers shifted through rainbow spectrums. Ice sculptures melted beautifully into fountains that recycled the water with visible tubes, making a show of sustainability that cost more than actual sustainability would. A string quartet played in the corner. Humans rather than AI, because hiring humans was the ultimate flex. The Chin family had rented the entire ballroom. Of course they had. Grandmother Lily stood at the entrance, 85 and sharp as broken glass. She was the only one who hugged Maya like she meant it. "My beautiful girl," Grandmother Lily said. "You look tired." "Working too hard, always, Grandma," her mother materialized, diamonds catching light from her neural implant's glow. "Maya drives herself too hard at that hospice. We keep telling her she could do so much more with her degree, but she's committed to her path." The words were for the aunts and uncles clustering nearby, each sentence a small cut disguised as concern. Her father clapped her shoulder. "At least you're on time." "Traffic from your neighborhood must have been hell." Brandon appeared, grinning his crypto bro grin, all teeth and confidence. Did you carpool? I hear gas prices are killing the budget conscious, Maya smiled. It was a skill she'd perfected, the smile that gave nothing away. I managed. Then Victoria made her entrance. The dress was smart silk, definitely, shifting from deep emerald to midnight blue as Victoria moved. It probably had climate control woven in, maybe biometric monitoring, certainly cost enough to fund a hospice wing. On Victoria's arm was Dr. James Whitmore, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo, his eyes scanning the room like he was searching for an exit. Their eyes met across the ballroom. Maya watched recognition hit him, followed by something else. Surprise. Regret. Maybe horror at the cosmic joke they'd both walked into. Victoria noticed none of this. Everyone, this is James. James, this is my little sister, Maya. The nurse, the way Victoria said the nurse carried the weight of 1,000 previous conversations, each one questioning why Maya had thrown away a Wharton education to wipe asses and watch people die. James extended his hand. His grip was warm, familiar, and completely professional. We've actually met. Years ago, at the hospital. It's good to see you again, Maya. Victoria's laugh was crystal and sharp. Oh right. When you were slumming it before your real career took off. James's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Maya wondered if he'd learned that skill from Victoria or if he'd brought it to the relationship. Dinner was a hierarchy made visible. Grandmother Lily at the head table. Victoria and James to her right, places of honor. Brandon and Tiffany, who looked like an AI-generated influencer, all perfect proportions and strategic highlights, to her left. Maya was seated at the far end, near cousins she barely knew and family friends who'd probably forgotten her name. The passive aggression started with the appetizers. Aunt Susan leaned over, her face pulled tight from cosmetic procedures that made her expression unreadable. Maya, dear, you're looking so natural. Have you considered augmentation? I know a wonderful surgeon. Family discount. Uncle Richard, Brandon's father, gestured with his wine glass. Maya, you're what, 32? My colleague's son works in pharmaceutical sales, makes great money. Medical field, you'd have things in common. I could introduce you. Tiffany, dripping in jewelry that probably had more processing power than Maya's entire apartment, touched Maya's dress. Oh my god, this is so vintage. Very sustainable. Where'd you get it? I've had it a while, see? Tiffany announced to the table. Maya's not materialistic at all. It's so refreshing, Victoria's voice carried from across the table. Maya's always been like that. Remember when Dad offered to buy her a car after graduation? She insisted on keeping that ancient Honda. We thought it was a phase, but 8 years later. Her laugh invited everyone to join the joke. Brandon stood, raising his glass. The holographic display above the table shifted to show images of a massive estate, 6 bedrooms, ocean views, architectural porn. Tiffany and I have an announcement. We just closed on our new home in Pacific Palisades. 2.3 million. 6 bedrooms, because. He paused for effect. We're pregnant, the table erupted. Champagne materialized from somewhere. Her mother cried. Her father calculated inheritance possibilities with visible joy. Victoria stood next, not to be outdone. Well, since we're sharing, James and I are taking a month in the Maldives. February. Private villa, overwater bungalow. I've been working so hard on the new product line. She kissed James's cheek possessively. James has been instrumental in my stress management. Teaching me work-life balance. James smiled, but Maya recognized that smile. She'd seen it on patients who were pretending they weren't in pain. Uncle Richard turned to Maya. What about you? Any announcements? Promotion? Boyfriend, work's been fulfilling, Maya said. I actually helped a patient complete a bucket list item last week. He painted his first bucket lists. Brandon interrupted. That's hospice stuff, right? Man, that must be depressing. I'd need therapy, Victoria's voice cut through. Maya's always been good with sadness. Very in touch with heavy emotions. I'm more of an optimist, personally, Aunt Susan patted Maya's hand. Someone has to do it, I suppose. We can't all be CEOs and doctors, her mother's voice was trying for supportive and landing somewhere near pity. Maya's happy. That's what matters. She's found her calling, even if it's not what we imagined. And who knows? Maybe she'll meet a nice doctor or hospital administrator. Hospitals have excellent benefits packages, the table laughed. Maya smiled her practiced smile and let the conversation wash over her. Across the table, James was watching. His expression had gone dark, something shifting behind his eyes that Maya couldn't quite read. After dinner, Maya escaped to the terrace. The city sprawled below, lights and movement and 8 million people pretending they mattered. The air was cold and chemical, recycled through scrubbers that removed most of the toxins but couldn't quite eliminate the taste of industrial progress. Mind if I join you? James stood in the doorway, bow tie loosened, looking like someone who'd been holding his breath for hours and finally remembered how to exhale. Free terrace, Maya said. He stepped out, leaned against the railing beside her. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth against the cold air. For what it's worth, what you do is incredible. Hospice nursing is one of the hardest specialties. I know. I worked with enough hospice teams to understand. You don't have to be nice to me because you feel bad, I'm not. He turned to look at her directly. I remember you, Maya. From 7 years ago. You were the nurse who stayed overnight with Mrs. Castellano. You held her hand through her last breath. Maya stared at him. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither could name. The city noise faded. The party inside became distant and irrelevant. You had a girlfriend, Maya said. Sarah, we broke up a month after Boston. Wrong fit. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she remembered from 7 years ago. Life got busy. I lost touch with everyone, and now you're dating my sister, yeah. The word carried weight. 3 months. We met at a medical charity event. She's successful, driven, impressive on paper, but, he hesitated, and in that hesitation, Maya saw everything he wasn't saying. Tonight was enlightening, he finally said. Victoria appeared in the doorway. 2 champagne flutes in hand, expression bright and possessive. There you are. James, I need you. Brandon's friend wants to talk about hospital investments. And Maya, Mom's looking for you. Family photos, the moment shattered. James and Maya exchanged one last glance, something unspoken, something impossible, and then the real world reasserted itself. Maya's neural implant buzzed at 9:47, during the speeches. Her grandmother was being toasted, Victoria was saying something about family legacy, and Maya's emergency alert cut through all of it. St. Mercy Hospice. Urgent, she took the call in the hallway, away from the party noise. Maya, I'm so sorry. Jennifer. Her supervisor sounded genuinely apologetic. Richard Castellano is here. His daughter's in emergency surgery across town. He's alone and asking for you specifically. He said you're the only one who understood when Eleanor passed. Maya didn't hesitate. 20 minutes, she returned to the table, grabbed her small purse, leaned toward her grandmother. Work emergency. I have to go. Grandmother Lily squeezed her hand. Go. They need you. Maya headed for the exit. Behind her, Victoria's voice carried. Where's she going? Her mother, louder. Maya? Where are you? Emergency, Maya called back. Sorry, Grandma. Happy birthday, Brandon's voice, performatively loud. Did she seriously just leave Grandma's 85th birthday for work? That's so disrespectful. Victoria. That's Maya. Priorities, Maya hit the lobby and didn't look back. The valet brought her Honda. She tipped him the last $5 in her wallet and drove off into the night, toward the hospital, toward people who actually needed her, away from a party where she'd never belonged anyway. In the hotel lobby, James stood at the bar, watching her taillights disappear through the glass doors, something fundamental shifting in his chest. Maya woke Sunday morning to her neural implant screaming with notifications. She'd forgotten to set it to sleep mode, and now her family's group chat was detonating inside her skull like a migraine with a message. She blinked, the interface active. Squinting against the morning light filtering through her apartment's single window. The timestamp read 8:34. The message was from Victoria, posted to the entire family except one conspicuous absence. FYI, James and I broke up last night. Apparently he has a savior complex and thinks nurses are more impressive than entrepreneurs. Bullet dodged. He's clearly unstable. The responses came fast, a Greek chorus of enablement and sympathy. Her mother's voice, synthesized through the neural interface's audio function, dripped concern. Oh honey, I'm so sorry. His loss. Brandon's response was predictably dismissive. Dude was weird anyway. Too serious. Aunt Susan, never one to miss an opportunity for empty platitudes, added her contribution. Plenty of fish in the sea, sweetie. Maya closed the group chat and stared at her ceiling. The water stain had grown overnight, or maybe she was just noticing it more. Either way, it looked like a Rorschach test designed by someone who'd given up on subtlety. Her phone buzzed. Private message from Victoria. Did you text James last night? Did something happen on that terrace? Maya's fingers hovered over the haptic keyboard projected onto her forearm. She could feel the accusation in every pixel, the assumption that Maya had somehow orchestrated Victoria's breakup through sheer proximity and desperate scheming. No. And nothing happened. Victoria's response was immediate. He broke up with me an hour after you left. Coincidence? Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. Not anger exactly, but something adjacent to it. Resignation, maybe. The familiar weight of being blamed for existing. Victoria, I was at the hospital with a patient until 1:30 a.m. Check with the hospice if you don't believe me. You've always been jealous of me. Maya stared at those 5 words, each one a small act of violence disguised as observation. She could respond. She could defend herself. She could explain that jealousy required wanting what someone else had, and she'd never wanted Victoria's life, the performance of success, the exhausting maintenance of image. The relationships that looked perfect in photographs and felt empty everywhere else. Instead, Maya blocked Victoria's number and set her neural implant to filter all Chin family communications through a review queue she'd check once daily. Maybe. The apartment felt smaller than usual. She made coffee, the old-fashioned kind that required a kettle and filter and actual patience. While it brewed, she pulled up her banking app and stared at the number that had grown by exactly $0 since yesterday, $63,412. Annual salary. Reality made manifest in digital currency. She thought about Richard Castellano at the hospital, broken and grateful in equal measure. She thought about Hiroshi's paintings, wobbly clouds that meant everything. She thought about James on the terrace, remembering lavender tea from 7 years ago. Then she thought about Victoria's text, the casual cruelty of it, the assumption that Maya's entire existence revolved around wanting what Victoria had. Maya drank her coffee and decided she didn't care enough to be angry. Monday arrived with the particular weight of weekdays that follow emotional weekends. Maya returned to St. Mercy Hospice expecting routine, medications, vital signs, the careful choreography of keeping dying people comfortable. Instead, she found Jennifer waiting at the nurse's station with an expression Maya couldn't quite read. "Richard Castellano called this morning," Jennifer said. "He wanted to thank you personally. Asked for your mailing address." Maya felt something twist in her stomach. "That's not necessary," he insisted. "Said something about you being there for his wife and for him." Jennifer paused, studying Maya's face. "He sounded pretty emotional about it. Whatever you did Saturday night made an impact. I just sat with him," Maya said. "That's the job." "That's not just a job," Jennifer replied, but she didn't push further. The rest of Monday passed in a blur of routine punctuated by moments of unexpected kindness. Mrs. Patterson in room 4 asked Maya to sit with her during lunch, not because she needed medical attention but because she was lonely and Maya's presence made the hospital food taste less like defeat. Mr. Chen, no relation, despite the shared surname, asked Maya to help him write a letter to his grandson, his hands too shaky to manage the tablet interface. By the time her shift ended, Maya had forgotten about Richard Castellano's call. She'd forgotten about Victoria's accusations. She'd almost forgotten about James Whitmore and coffee spilled in hallways and charged moments on hotel terraces. Almost. Tuesday at 4 p.m., Maya walked out of the hospice to find James waiting by her car, holding 2 coffee cups from a cafe 3 blocks away. The sight of him stopped her mid-step, her brain taking a moment to process the incongruity of this particular person in this particular place. "You said Tuesday at 4, James said, offering a coffee cup. "I'm technically not stalking you. I asked Jennifer if you were working today." "That's borderline stalking," Maya replied, but she took the coffee. "Caramel latte, oat milk, extra shot." Her order from 7 years ago, back when they'd worked the same shifts and he'd occasionally brought decent coffee for the entire nursing staff. Fair point. James gestured toward a small park across the street, more decorative green space than actual nature but functional enough. "Can we talk?" They walked without speaking, found a bench that overlooked a fountain recycling the same water in an endless loop. Maya sipped her coffee and waited for James to find whatever words he'd come here to say. "I owe you an apology," he started. "For dating your sister, for not recognizing how toxic that dinner was until it was too late, for showing up at your workplace like some kind of romantic comedy protagonist who thinks persistence is charming instead of concerning." Maya almost laughed. "You don't owe me anything, James. You barely know me. I know you stayed with Mrs. Castellano when she was dying because she was afraid of the dark." His voice was quiet but certain. "I know you taught a paralyzed man to paint because you noticed he was staring at clouds. I know you left your grandmother's birthday without hesitation because a patient needed you. I know enough." The words settled between them like stones dropped in still water, creating ripples Maya could feel but couldn't quite see. She studied his face, looking for the lie, why? "Because 7 years ago I was too much of a coward to ask you out." The admission came without self-pity, just statement of fact. "And 3 months ago I made the mistake of dating someone I wasn't compatible with. And last Saturday I watched you endure cruelty with grace, and I remembered why I became a doctor in the first place. You remind me what medicine is supposed to be about." Maya looked at him, really looked, past the expensive haircut and the confidence that came from success, seeing instead the resident who'd brought coffee and remembered names and treated hospice nurses like colleagues instead of servants. "Friends," she said, "friends." He extended his hand. Formal and slightly absurd. "Unless, in 6 months or a year, you decide you want more. Then we renegotiate." Maya shook his hand, felt the warmth of his palm against hers, noticed how neither of them pulled away immediately. "You're very confident in your friendship skills. I make excellent friendship coffee." She laughed then, a real laugh that surprised her with its genuineness. "Okay. Friends, they sat on that bench for another hour, talking about nothing important and everything that mattered. James told her about Boston, about learning cardiology from surgeons who treated medicine like art. Maya told him about Hiroshi's paintings, about Senator Williams and Harold's reconciliation. About the small victories that made hospice bearable. When they finally parted, Maya drove home feeling lighter than she had in months. Her neural implant buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She accepted the notification, and Senator Patricia Williams' voice filled her car's audio system. "Ms. Chen, this is Patricia Williams. You cared for my brother Harold last month. I'm hosting a small memorial gathering at Harold's home this Sunday. Family, close friends, people who made his last weeks meaningful. We'd be honored if you'd come. 2 p.m. I'll send you the address." Maya started to formulate a polite refusal. She'd imposed enough, intruded on private grief, crossed whatever professional boundary separated caregiver from mourner. But something in the senator's voice stopped her. "Not obligation, but genuine invitation. I'd be honored," Maya said to the empty car, and the AI assistant confirmed her acceptance. Friday brought another unexpected contact. Maya found a physical envelope in her mailbox, actual paper sealed with actual wax, the kind of affectation that cost money and signaled importance. Inside was a handwritten note on cardstock that probably cost more per sheet than Maya's monthly coffee budget. "Dear Maya, my father Hiroshi passed peacefully on Tuesday. Your gift of painting gave him joy in his final weeks. Our family would like to honor you at a small private ceremony at our restaurant this Saturday. 6 p.m. Please come. You gave him art. Let us give you gratitude. With respect, Yuki Nakamura." Maya sat on her couch, holding the note, feeling the weight of handmade paper and careful calligraphy. Hiroshi was dead. She'd known it was coming, had prepared herself as much as anyone could prepare for the inevitable, but knowing and feeling were different countries separated by an ocean of denial. She sent her acceptance through the contact information printed at the bottom of the note, then sat in her apartment as evening light turned everything amber and golden and temporary. Saturday evening, Maya drove to Kiyomi in the restaurant district, where real food cost real money and reservations were measured in months. The restaurant was closed to the public, lights dimmed except for the private dining room in the back. She parked her Honda between luxury vehicles that made her car look like a refugee from an earlier, simpler century. Yuki met her at the door, eyes red but smile genuine. "Maya. Thank you for coming. Please." Inside, the Nakamura family had gathered: Yuki, her brother Takashi, their mother Keiko, and what looked like several generations of extended family. The room was set for a feast, traditional Japanese dishes arranged with the kind of care that elevated food into ceremony. But what stopped Maya's breath were the paintings. Hiroshi's watercolors covered every available surface, clouds and birds and clumsy attempts at the view from his hospice window. Wobbly and childlike and absolutely alive with joy, Keiko approached Maya, bowed deeply, then pulled her into an embrace that transcended language barriers. When she spoke, it was through tears, and Yuki translated, "You gave my husband his final dream. He always wanted to paint, but life was busy. The restaurant, the children, surviving. You gave him permission to create." Maya cried. They cried together. The whole room seemed to cry. This collective grief transformed into gratitude through the alchemy of shared loss. Takashi, who ran the restaurant empire now, handed Maya an envelope. "We know you'll refuse, but please. It's not payment. It's family taking care of family." Inside was a check for $15,000 and a handwritten note. "For your own dreams. Whatever they are. With love, the Nakamura family." Maya tried to refuse. The words formed, "This is too much, I can't accept this, I was just doing my job." But Yuki gripped her hands, fierce and certain. "You gave him dignity. You saw him as an artist when everyone else saw a patient. Let us do this. Please, Maya accepted, overwhelmed, carrying the check like it might evaporate if she held it too tightly. Sunday took her to Maryland, to Harold Williams' estate where old money whispered instead of shouted. Senator Patricia Williams greeted her personally, security detail discreet but present, and introduced her to Harold's son Michael. Michael gripped Maya's hand like she'd saved his life instead of his relationship. You gave me 3 weeks with my father. Real conversation. Real reconciliation. I was so angry for so long, I couldn't see past it. You helped us talk. Actually talk. Thank you. Then Richard Castellano appeared, Eleanor's widow, embracing Maya with the desperation of someone who'd found solid ground after years of drowning. I've been trying to reach you, he said, pulling a leather portfolio from his briefcase. I sent something to your address, but I wanted to give you this in person. Inside was a framed letter, Eleanor's handwriting careful and deliberate, dated 2 weeks before her death. To the nurse with lavender tea and gentle hands, thank you for seeing me as a person, not a patient. Thank you for listening to my stories. Thank you for holding my fear so my family didn't have to. You are an angel on earth. With love, Eleanor. Beneath the letter was a check for $50,000. Maya's hands shook. Richard, I can't. Yes, you can. Eleanor wanted to leave you something, but she never got the chance. This is from both of us. Please. Let us do this. Senator Williams had been listening, and now she stepped forward. Richard told me what you did for Eleanor. I've been thinking about how to honor my brother's memory. I'd like to establish a fund at the hospice in Harold's name. Specifically for nurse education and patient comfort programs. I'd like you to help me design it. Maya stood in that beautiful house surrounded by powerful people, holding a check that represented nearly her entire annual salary, and felt the world tilting on an axis she hadn't known existed. Monday, she met James for coffee at their bench. Her hand still trembled slightly when she pulled out her phone and showed him her bank account. $63,000 had become $128,000 overnight. I don't know how to accept all of this, she said. The Nakamuras gave me $15,000. Richard gave me $50,000. Senator Williams wants me to help design a memorial fund. I'm a nurse. I was just doing my job, you weren't doing a job. James's voice was gentle but firm. You were changing lives. It feels like too much. What if it's not about what you deserve? What if it's about people needing to express gratitude? You gave them something priceless. They're trying to give you something back. Maya stared at the fountain, watching water cycle through its programmed patterns. My family would say I'm getting charity. Your family, James said carefully, doesn't understand the difference between value and price. The conversation shifted then, some invisible line crossed or maybe just acknowledged. Can I confess something? James asked. Maya turned to look at him. Okay, I've been thinking about you constantly since that terrace. I know I said friends, and I meant it. But I also need you to know that I broke up with Victoria before I realized I still had feelings for you. The timeline matters to me. I didn't break up with her for you. I broke up with her because I was with the wrong person. The words hung between them, honest and terrifying and absolutely impossible to ignore. James. Maya started, but he shook his head. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know the truth. Maya looked at this man who remembered her coffee order from 7 years ago, who'd watched her family mock her and seen value instead of failure, who'd broken up with her sister for reasons that had nothing to do with Maya but somehow everything to do with who Maya was. The timeline matters to me too, she said quietly. I don't want to be anyone's rebound, you wouldn't be. But I understand if you need time to believe that. I need time, I have time. Their hands touched across the table, fingers intertwining without conscious decision. Neither pulled away. The week unfolded like a dream where reality kept insisting on its own implausibility. David Stone, renowned architect whose mother Maya had cared for 2 years ago, sent a handwritten note offering to design her dream home, pro bono, whenever she was ready. The Castellano family lawyer called with news of a trust fund, $100,000 in Eleanor's name, supporting hospice nurses pursuing education or facing financial hardship, with Maya named as the first recipient if she chose. Dr. Amara Okonkwo, whose father had been Maya's patient 18 months ago, invited her to speak at a medical conference about compassionate end-of-life care. The speaking fee alone was more than Maya made in a month. She texted James daily now, small updates that felt significant because he responded like they mattered. "I don't understand why this is all happening now," his response came quickly. "Maybe because people don't know how to say thank you in the moment. Grief takes time. Gratitude takes time." Friday night, while Maya was working a late shift, the Chen family gathered for dinner at Robert and Diane's house in the suburbs. Maya hadn't been invited. She rarely was for casual family dinners, the ones that didn't require performance or witnesses. Victoria arrived still bitter, still wounded by James's rejection. She'd posted about the breakup on 3 separate platforms, framing it as her decision, her standards, her refusal to settle. The comments sections were full of supportive strangers telling her she deserved better. "He clearly has terrible judgment," Victoria said, pouring wine that cost more than Maya's monthly groceries. "Dating a nurse after me?" Downgrade. Brandon, scrolling through his neural feed, looked up with sudden interest. "I actually saw them together. At the coffee shop near the hospital. They looked pretty cozy." Victoria's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. "What? Yeah, like holding hands or something." Diane's expression cycled through shock, disapproval, and calculation in the space of 3 seconds. "Maya is dating Victoria's ex-boyfriend? That's completely inappropriate." Robert frowned, his businessman's brain already computing social costs and family optics. "Did Maya even apologize for walking out on Grandma's birthday?" "Of course not," Victoria said. "Maya thinks her job is more important than family." Grandmother Lily had been silent through dinner, eating her food and watching her family with the expression of someone conducting an experiment in human nature. Now she set down her chopsticks with deliberate precision. "Maya left because a patient needed her. That's who she is. You always defend her," Victoria said, "because you all attack her." Grandmother Lily's voice carried the weight of 85 years and 0 remaining patience. "For 10 years you've mocked that girl for choosing a life of meaning over a life of money. She's never said a word against any of you." "Not once, Mom, that's not fair," Diane started, but Grandmother Lily cut her off. "When I die, I want Maya by my side." "Not you, Diane. Not you, Victoria. Maya. Because she'll hold my hand and won't be checking her phone." The room went silent except for the ambient noise of the smart home's climate control. No one looked at anyone else. Grandmother Lily stood, slowly, using the table for support. "I'm tired. Robert, please call me a car." She left without saying goodbye, and the dinner dissolved into awkward small talk that fooled no one. Later that night, Maya's neural implant buzzed with a message from her grandmother. Just 3 words, "I love you." Maya sat in the hospice break room, surrounded by the institutional beige of walls and the antiseptic smell of industrial cleaning products, and cried for the first time in months. Not from sadness but from the overwhelming relief of being seen, being valued, being loved for exactly who she was instead of who she'd failed to become. She texted James. "My grandmother told my family she wants me with her when she dies instead of them." His response was immediate. "Your grandmother is a wise woman, she's the only one who gets it." "Not the only one," James replied. And Maya felt something warm settle in her chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. Saturday night at 11 p.m., Maya's neural implant buzzed with an incoming message from Richard Castellano. She was sitting in her apartment, staring at her one formal dress laid out on the bed, dreading tomorrow's family gathering with the particular exhaustion that came from knowing you'd spend hours performing normalcy for people who fundamentally misunderstood your existence. The message appeared in her peripheral vision, Richard's voice synthesized through her audio interface. Maya, I've been trying to reach you by phone. There are several people who'd like to meet you. We've all been coordinating for weeks on something important. Are you free tomorrow? Any time that works for you. It's urgent, but good urgent. Maya blinked twice to respond, her fingers moving across the haptic keyboard projected onto her forearm. I'm actually at my grandmother's hotel tomorrow night. Family obligation. Grand Meridian, all night. Can we meet Monday? Richard's response came immediately. Which hotel? What time? Grand Meridian. I'll be there from 7 p.m. onward. Why, perfect. We'll come to you. Maya stared at the message, confusion settling like fog. She typed a question mark, but Richard had already gone offline. She dismissed the notification and returned to contemplating her dress, the same black cocktail number that had witnessed her humiliation 2 weeks ago. Now expected to perform the same duty again, her phone buzzed. James, through the conventional text interface he preferred for personal messages. How are you feeling about tomorrow? Like I'm preparing for a dental procedure without anesthesia, want company afterward. I make excellent post-family trauma coffee, Maya smiled despite herself. I'll let you know how bad it gets, I'm on call tomorrow night anyway. St. Michael's. 10 minutes from the Grand Meridian if you need extraction. She fell asleep thinking about extraction, about escape routes and coffee and the way James looked at her like she was something valuable instead of something lacking. Sunday arrived with the weight of obligation. Maya put on the dress, ignored Victoria's messages in the family chat about appropriate accessories and the importance of presenting well, and drove her Honda to Tower District through traffic that seemed designed to maximize her anxiety. The Grand Meridian's valet looked at her car with the same carefully maintained neutrality as last time. Maya tipped him $5 again, aware that consistency was its own form of dignity, and walked into the hotel lobby like she was entering a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. This gathering was smaller, quieter, just family in a private lounge off the main lobby. Grandmother Lily had insisted on a second celebration. Something more intimate than the extravagant gala. Maya suspected her grandmother had orchestrated this specifically to force the family into proximity without the buffer of hundreds of guests and performative speeches. Victoria was already there, holding court near the bar, her smart fabric dress shifting from burgundy to deep purple as she moved. She glanced at Maya, registered the same black dress, and her expression cycled through judgment and dismissal in under a second. Brandon and Tiffany occupied a corner booth, both absorbed in their neural feeds, occasionally looking up to acknowledge physical reality before diving back into whatever digital conversation was more compelling than the people in front of them. Maya's parents performed their particular brand of strained cheerfulness, the kind that came from people who'd spent decades perfecting the art of looking happy while feeling disappointed. Grandmother Lily sat on a sofa near the window, and when she saw Maya, her entire face transformed. She patted the cushion beside her, and Maya crossed the room, aware of eyes tracking her movement, aware of being judged for her dress, her posture, her audacity to exist in a space clearly not designed for her frequency. Tell me about your week, Grandmother Lily said, taking Maya's hand. Maya described the Nakamura dinner, Senator Williams' memorial, the letters, and overwhelming gratitude. She mentioned the money in passing, downplaying the amounts because naming them felt like bragging or lying or both. Grandmother Lily squeezed her hand. They see what I see. You have a rich life, Maya. Richer than all of us. The words settled between them like a blessing or a prophecy, and Maya felt something in her chest unclench slightly. The evening crawled forward with the particular tedium of family gatherings where everyone was performing civility without feeling it. Victoria ignored Maya. Brandon made one cutting remark about Maya's car before grandmother Lily shut him down with a look that could freeze helium. Diane and Robert oscillated between trying to include Maya in conversations and subtly emphasizing her outsider status. At 10:30, Maya excused herself to the lobby, pulled out her phone, and texted James. "Stuck at family thing. Wish you were here to make it less awkward." His response was immediate. "What hotel?" "Grand Meridian." "Why, I'm 10 minutes away. Finished a late consult." "Can I crash your family party?" Maya stared at her screen. "That's insane, I've made worse decisions. See you soon." She returned to the lounge in a state of mild panic mixed with something dangerously close to hope. James was coming. James was voluntarily entering the Chen family ecosystem either because he was genuinely interested in supporting her or because he had a fundamental misunderstanding of self-preservation. At 10:47, the hotel host appeared in the lounge doorway looking confused. Maya saw James behind him, still in his work clothes, dress shirt, slacks, his white coat draped over his arm like a flag of medical authority. Maya met him in the lobby before he could enter the lounge. "You actually came, you said you wished I was here." The logic was simple and devastating and completely sincere. Maya felt something warm spread through her chest, but before she could respond, Victoria appeared in the doorway, her face cycling through surprise, recognition, and fury. "Are you kidding me right now?" Victoria's voice carried across the lobby, sharp enough to cut glass. "You brought him?" "To a family event, I didn't bring him. He came." James held up his hands in a gesture of peace. "Victoria, I'm not here to cause problems, you are the problem." Victoria's voice rose, and several other hotel guests turned to watch. "You dump me, then immediately start dating my sister." "We're not dating," Maya started, but Victoria was on a roll. "And now you're showing up at family events like you belong here?" Grandmother Lily appeared, leaning heavily on her cane, moving with the slow deliberation of someone who'd decided patience was no longer useful. "Victoria, enough. James is Maya's guest. If you can't be civil, you can leave." "Grandma, you can't be serious." "I'm very serious." Grandmother Lily's voice carried the weight of 5 years and 0 remaining tolerance for nonsense. "Maya has spent 10 years being gracious while you all belittle her. She's allowed to bring a friend." The confrontation was interrupted by the hotel concierge, a young man with the professional demeanor of someone paid to manage chaos without showing emotion. "Excuse me, is there a Maya Chen here?" "There are several people in the lobby asking for her." Maya turned, confused. "I'm Maya Chen, they're asking for you specifically." "Should I send them up?" "Who's asking?" The concierge gestured toward the main lobby entrance. "They said their names were Richard Castellano and Senator Williams." Maya's brain took a moment to process this information, then rejected it as impossible. Richard Castellano was here? At 11 p.m. on a Sunday, she walked toward the main lobby, James following, Victoria trailing behind with an expression of aggressive curiosity. The rest of the family emerged from the lounge, drawn by the commotion. Richard Castellano stood near the entrance in an expensive suit, looking distinguished and purposeful. Beside him was Senator Patricia Williams, flanked by her security detail. Behind them, Maya recognized Yuki and Takashi Nakamura, Dr. Amara Okonkwo, and David Stone, the architect. "Maya." Richard's smile was warm and certain. "I'm so glad we found you. Is there somewhere private we can talk?" "There are others coming." "Others?" Maya's voice sounded distant, like someone else was speaking through her mouth, as if summoned by the question. More people arrived. Families Maya had cared for over the years, people she recognized from hospital waiting rooms and hospice bedsides. By midnight, 17 people had gathered in the Grand Meridian lobby, a congregation of grief transformed into gratitude. The hotel staff was visibly bewildered. The night manager approached, professional courtesy barely masking concern. "I'm sorry, but this is a private event. If you're not with the Chen family." Richard Castellano turned to face him, and something in his posture, the casual authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed, made the manager stop mid-sentence. We're here for Maya Chen." The Chen family had fully assembled now, drawn from the lounge by curiosity and concern. Victoria, Brandon, Diane, Robert, all staring at this impossible gathering with expressions ranging from confusion to suspicion. Diane found her voice first. "What's going on?" Maya shook her head, genuinely lost. "I don't know." Richard Castellano addressed the family, his voice carrying across the lobby with the practiced ease of someone who'd given countless corporate presentations. "I'm Richard Castellano, CEO of Castellano Industries. I don't think we've formally met. This is Senator Patricia Williams, the Nakamura family, Dr. Amara Okonkwo of Johns Hopkins, architect David Stone, and several others. We're all here for the same reason." "Maya Chen." Victoria's voice came out sharp and defensive. "What are you talking about? Maya was my wife Eleanor's hospice nurse." Richard's voice softened, grief and gratitude blending into something almost sacred. "She gave Eleanor dignity, peace, and compassion in her final weeks. She held my hand the night Eleanor died and told me it was okay to fall apart. She saved me." Senator Williams stepped forward, her security detail shifting to maintain proximity. "Maya reconciled my brother with his estranged son. She gave them 3 weeks of healing before Harold passed. She gave my family closure we thought we'd never have." Yuki Nakamura's voice trembled slightly. "Maya taught my father to paint when he couldn't move. She gave him joy in his final months. She saw him as an artist, not a patient." One by one, they shared their stories. The lobby transformed into a testimonial, each person offering evidence of Maya's impact, building a case for her value that had nothing to do with salary or status or any metric the Chen family understood. Brandon, ever the pragmatist, cut through the emotion. "Okay, but why are you all here?" At midnight on a Sunday, Richard pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket, held it like it contained something precious or dangerous or both. "Because for the past 6 years, since Eleanor's death, I've been trying to find a way to properly thank Maya. She refused every gift, every gesture. So I started a private fund in Eleanor's name. Other families Maya has cared for heard about it and contributed. We've been trying to contact Maya for 2 months, but she's always working, always busy." He opened the envelope, pulled out a document that looked official and binding. "The fund now contains $4.7 million. Contributions from 17 families whose lives Maya has touched. It's not charity, Maya. It's gratitude." The lobby went silent. Maya felt the numbers hit her like physical force, her brain refusing to process the magnitude. $4.7 million. That was more than she'd earn in her entire lifetime. That was generational wealth. That was impossible. "I can't accept that," she said, but her voice sounded weak, unconvincing even to herself. David Stone stepped forward, his architect's hands gesturing as if building something in the air between them. "There's more. 5 of us went in together on a house. A real house, Maya. 4 bedrooms, garden, in Riverside Park. You mentioned that neighborhood once to Dr. Okonkwo. Said it was beautiful, that you'd always dreamed of living somewhere with actual trees. It's in your name. Deed's already transferred. It's yours." Maya's legs stopped supporting her weight. James caught her, his hands steady on her arms, holding her upright while her world reorganized itself around this new impossible reality. "I was just doing my job," Maya said through tears that came without permission. Grandmother Lily walked forward slowly, leaning heavily on her cane, and pulled Maya into an embrace that smelled like jasmine and thyme. You were doing your life's work. There's a difference. Victoria stood frozen, her face cycling through emotions too quickly to name. Shock, certainly. Humiliation, definitely. But underneath everything else, something that might have been the beginning of understanding. I called you poor, Victoria said quietly, the words barely audible over the lobby's ambient noise. You did, Maya replied. I said you wasted your life. You did. Victoria's voice cracked slightly. I was wrong. It wasn't a full apology, Victoria wasn't capable of that yet, but it was a crack in the armor, a glimpse of the person underneath all the performance and brand management. Brandon, still processing, looked at Maya with genuine confusion. You're a millionaire, apparently, but you drive a 15-year-old Honda. I like my Honda. The absurdity of it, standing in a luxury hotel lobby, worth nearly $5 million, defending her car choice, broke something loose. A few people laughed, tension dissolving into the ridiculous. James, who'd been standing slightly behind Maya, stepped forward. His voice was measured, deliberate, choosing words with the care of someone defusing a bomb. I should mention something. For the sake of full transparency, every eye in the lobby turned to him. I broke up with Victoria about 8 hours after Maya left the gala 2 weeks ago. I broke up with her in the parking garage of this hotel. Victoria's voice came out strangled. Why are you bringing this up now? Because I don't want anyone to think I knew about any of this. I didn't. I broke up with Victoria because I watched her family mock Maya all night, and I realized I was with someone whose values didn't align with mine. He turned to face Maya directly, and his expression transformed into something vulnerable and terrifying and completely honest. I also need to say this in front of everyone, so there's no ambiguity. Maya, I've been trying to work up the courage to ask you something for about 7 years. Would you consider having dinner with me? Not coffee. An actual date. With the understanding that I'm completely serious about you and have been since the night you stayed with Mrs. Castellano when I was a resident and you were the kindest person I'd ever met. The lobby was dead silent. Maya's brain short-circuited somewhere between comprehension and panic. You're asking me out? Right now? In a hotel lobby at 1:30 in the morning in front of 17 people, my entire family, and my grandmother? James smiled, small and genuine. When you put it that way, it sounds like terrible judgment. It is terrible judgment, but I'm an optimist. Grandmother Lily's voice came from somewhere to Maya's left. Say yes, Maya. He's handsome and he has a good heart. I like him. Maya looked at James, this man who'd remembered her coffee order from 7 years ago. Who'd broken up with her sister over principles rather than attraction, who was standing in a hotel lobby making the worst-timed romantic gesture in human history and somehow making it work. I get off shift Tuesday at 4, she said. I'll bring better coffee than the hospital cafeteria. And make a reservation somewhere nice. Deal. Richard Castellano started clapping. Then Senator Williams. Then the entire group, this collection of grateful strangers and bewildered family members, applauding something they didn't fully understand but recognized as important. Even the hotel staff joined in, caught up in whatever was happening. The next hour dissolved into logistics and emotion. Richard and the others left contact information, offered to connect Maya with financial planners, discussed investment strategies and tax implications. Senator Williams pulled her aside to confirm her nomination for the National Hospice Nurse of the Year award. David Stone promised to show her the house whenever she was ready. The Nakamura family bowed deeply, then hugged her with the fierce affection of people who understood that gratitude transcended language and culture. By 2:15 a.m., the crowd had dispersed, leaving only the Chin family and James in the lobby that now felt enormous and empty. Diane approached Maya first, tears streaming down her face in a way that looked genuine. I'm so sorry. I didn't understand. Robert stood beside her, hands in his pockets, looking smaller than Maya had ever seen him. "We should have supported you." All these years, Victoria remained stiff, but something in her eyes had softened. "I was cruel. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I'm sorry." Brandon ran his hand through his hair, his usual confidence replaced by something approximating humility. "I feel like an idiot," Grandmother Lily's voice cut through, sharp and certain. "You should. All of you. But Maya will forgive you because that's who she is." Maya looked at her family, broken, humbled, but present in a way they'd never been before. She felt anger and relief and exhaustion competing for dominance in her chest. "I don't need you to understand my choices," she said quietly. "But I need you to respect them." "And respect me," Diane nodded, still crying. "We will. I promise." Maya drove home at 3 a.m., James following in his car to make sure she got there safely, both of them too wired to sleep, too overwhelmed to process what had just happened. They sat in her apartment parking lot for another hour, talking through car windows about nothing and everything, until the sky started lightening and exhaustion finally won. 6 months later, Maya stood in her new house in Riverside Park, sunlight streaming through windows that overlooked actual trees and a garden she was learning to maintain. Hiroshi's watercolor paintings covered the walls, framed by the Nakamura family as a housewarming gift. Eleanor's letter sat on the mantel in a place of honor. James sat beside her on the back porch, both of them holding coffee, comfortable in the kind of silence that came from understanding rather than absence of things to say. "You know, I was thinking about that night," James said. "In the lobby, the most mortifying night of my life. I prefer to think of it as the night your family finally understood what I've known for 7 years. You're extraordinary." Maya leaned into him, feeling his warmth, the solidity of his presence. "You're a smooth talker, Dr. Whitmore. I've been practicing." A car pulled into the driveway. Victoria emerged carrying a plant, her expression tentative but determined. She'd shown up for Sunday dinner every week for the past 3 months, each visit slightly less awkward than the last. "You came," Maya said, surprised despite the pattern. "You invited me." "I'm trying this being a supportive sister thing. It's new." Victoria handed over the plant. "Peace lily. It's symbolic. Also, the florist said it's hard to kill, which feels appropriate given my track record with relationships." They laughed, and it sounded almost real. Inside, the Chen family gathered around Maya's dining table. Grandmother Lily, Diane, Robert, Victoria, Brandon, and Tiffany with their baby. The conversation flowed naturally, Victoria asking about Maya's upcoming conference speech, Brandon genuinely interested in James's cardiology work, Diane complimenting the meal without hidden criticism. Grandmother Lily raised her glass, hand steady despite her age. To Maya, who taught us that the richest life isn't measured in money, but in the people who show up when it matters most. They toasted, and Maya felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Not vindication exactly, but something close to peace. Later, after everyone left, Maya and James sat on the porch swing, watching stars emerge through light pollution, the city sprawling below like a circuit board. "Do you ever think about that night?" James asked. "The lobby? Every day. Regrets? Not one. Except maybe your timing. You could have asked me out somewhere less public. Where's the romance in that?" He kissed her then, soft and certain, and Maya kissed him back, tasting coffee and possibility and the strange miracle of being seen for exactly who she was. "I love you, James Whitmore," she said against his mouth. "I've loved you since the lavender tea." They sat in comfortable silence, the city lights twinkling below, and Maya thought about Eleanor's letter, about Hiroshi's paintings, about all the lives she'd touched without realizing she was building something more valuable than any bank account. She thought about her family, slowly learning to see her, and about the man beside her who'd seen her all along. True wealth, she understood now, wasn't counted in bank accounts or measured in social media followers or displayed in smart fabric dresses. It was measured in who showed up at 2 a.m. when you didn't even know you needed them, in the quiet moments after, in the steady presence of people who valued you for reasons that had nothing to do with money or status or performance. It was measured in cups of coffee and watercolor clouds and the weight of a hand holding yours while someone took their last breath. It was measured in being exactly where you were meant to be, doing exactly what you were meant to do. Surrounded by people who finally understood, Maya closed her eyes and let herself feel it all: the grief and gratitude, the love and redemption, the impossible journey from that hospital room 9 years ago to this porch, this house, this life she'd built one compassionate moment at a time. She'd done her job. She'd changed lives. And in the process, she'd discovered that the greatest revenge against a family that valued only money was to build a fortune they could never understand or diminish. Not a fortune of dollars, but of meaning. Of impact. Of love freely given and gratefully received. The city hummed below, 8 million people pursuing their own versions of wealth and success. And Maya Chin sat on her porch, a millionaire by accident and a success by design, finally at peace with the woman she'd chosen to become.